What's up, everybody? It's your boy Roberto back with some more videos, and we're going to talk about the shortages that's going to happen in the near future around the world, and what's going to lead to these shortages. We're not just going to see food shortages; we're going to see a lot of shortages dealing with natural resources, and the main cause of these shortages is going to be from war, guys. War is just bound to happen at this point. There's so much tension going on around the world with the war in Russia between Russia and Ukraine. It kind of takes the attention off of a lot of countries that are building up and gearing up for war right now. That people don't realize we're about to go into World War III and they don't even know it. Okay, so some countries fear Russia is going to invade them, like the Moldovanian president Maya has told her Romanian counterpart Klaus that she will ask for help in case Russia decides to go a step further in its territorial invasion of Ukraine and choose to do the same with the neighboring Moldova. Now, if you guys don't know, Moldova is a small country on the border of Ukraine and right there in Russia and stuff like that. They're very close together, and the president of the country, this young lady here, feels that Russia is going to try to take it a step further and invade her country as well, because Russia is going to do basically what Putin's going to do, basically what Hitler did. Says he wants this one country and he's going to keep moving on and on and on. And she said she will ask for help if it does come to a scenario where Russia does invade her country, which is much smaller with a much weaker military than Ukraine. So chances of them putting up a fight to Ukraine is very slim to none. So she is going to ask for help to her Romanian neighbor, which is in alliance with NATO. So a few things she says: we are concerned and contemplate with all scenarios, including the most pessimistic ones, in the situation in which Russia would try to attack Moldova. We will obviously ask for help. Sandu said in statements that, according to the Moldovan press, are a call for help to Romania in the face of a hypothetical Russian attack. So she's going to call on Romania for help if this does happen, to fight off the Russians, because, like I said, her country is not as tough and will get steamrolled by Russia, and she needs help. So this is going to be part of the reason that I said a lot of shortages is going to happen, because the world is going to be so divided, with countries picking sides just like World War II, to where people are going to use their natural resources as a way of war. And you're going to see a lot of countries either go to war trying to protect their natural resources, or you're going to see a lot of countries using those natural resources as a way of war. Like, as far countries that have a lot of oil, they stop selling oil to countries like the US or China or India or whatever, just to not help those countries in these situations. So just imagine if Saudi Arabia say, hey, we're not going to sell oil to just use the US for example. We're not going to sell oil to the US. Instead, we're going to keep our oil and sell it to the people that we're aligned with. That's going to hurt those countries, and it's going to cause global shortages. And guess what they're going to do in return? They're going to do the same thing. They're going to stop selling things to these other countries, and you're going to end up with a world that has so many natural resource shortages in every country because of this scenario. Everybody's picking sides, and people are only willing to help the side that they're on. So, as I said before, you got the Moldovan president scared of Russia attacking her and not being able to defend themselves, and wanting to ask for help from Romania if this type of thing does happen. And she's pretty confident in their partnership that they would give help. Now, this is just one of many more to come. So, talked about that, guys. Let's go on. Between Israel and Iran, we already know there's so much tension between Israel and Iran. Israel has been assassinating Iran's scientists. Powerful people within the country of Iran have been getting assassinated by Israel military forces, and they've been bombing Iranian bases. Any base that they feel like is doing research for nuclear weapons, which Iran is not allowed to have right now because of sanctions from the U.S. and a treaty or whatever they signed with the U.S. so that they couldn't create nuclear weapons. They're trying to find a way out of this hole so they can't create nuclear weapons. And Israel feels like Iran's been creating nuclear weapons without the permission of the U.S. So they've been assassinating scientists and blowing up these nuclear facilities or supposedly nuclear facilities, and they've been at big risk of war. Now, the thing with Israel and Iran is Israel's backed by the United States, so it really scares Iran off from doing a lot of things that they would do because they don't want to get into a confrontation with the United States. Then you have the United States, which already made it clear that if Iran does decide to start building nuclear weapons, they will go to war. And that's not good for Iran if they decide to try to build nuclear weapons. A war with the United States is definitely not something they want. And it's definitely not something that they could afford to handle right now. It would basically give the United States what they want. They would be able to overthrow the government of Iran as they did before years ago when they were a democratic country, and the U.S. decided to overthrow the elected government, the president of the country at the time. And this is what really was the start of the tension between the United States and Iran. So, Iran has a lot of oil and stuff like that. Iran has a lot of reserve oil. So just imagine Iran, going to war with the United States and stop selling oil to any of the United States allies or anybody that supports the United States or any of NATO who's contributing to this war. Get where I'm going with this? This is how the global shortages start. And what the U.S. is going to do, they're going to try to, hurry up, defeat Iran as quickly as possible, take over the capital, and implement a puppet state right there. Now you're going to have countries like Russia trying to support Iran in order to prevent this from happening, because having the United States with a puppet government right there in Iran is another slap in the face to Russia, and that hurts Russia in a lot more ways than one. And you got countries like Israel who are just waiting for their chance to go in a full-out war with Iran with the help of another country. And this being said, this will weaken Iran a lot, which will keep Israel from having to worry about Iran doing anything in the near future. So they're going to love this. And this is, like I said, sanctions will happen. A lot of things will happen that will weaken Iran to the point where the country collapses and we may see another Iraq. So, like I said, guys, war is going to be the cause of these global shortages. War, and more war. So, other countries that could possibly go to war too is India and Pakistan. They've had so much tension. They've had tension since the country split. These Western countries like Britain, always that were, they gained independence from, they decided to just split these countries up and not actually paying attention to what they're doing. They just split it up just to split it up without, the religious parts and all this other stuff that goes into when you split these countries up. You got to look into there's more things than one, and Western nations don't look at that. They just draw a line and that's it. It does not work like that. So there's been a lot of tension between these two countries since the split, and India and Pakistan are really on the verge of going to war. And they've basically been in a proxy war for years. But one thing I can say is, with these two countries bumping heads like this, they will do the same thing. And these are two nuclear countries. Both of these countries have nuclear weapons. So that's even more scary if it ever gets to the point to where it's a nuclear war, because they both have nuclear weapons and they both can possibly affect themselves along with the rest of the world. Honestly, I always say the first country that fires off the first nuke is going to open up a can of worms that is going to be crazy. And everybody's fear right now is that can of worms being opened. A lot of people don't think nobody has the balls to do it because it's a suicide to you. Nobody wants to. None of these leaders want to get nuked and have themselves killed by a nuke, because there's no getting away from a nuke. I don't care where you're at. I don't care where your bunker is. You're not getting away from it. And that's what a lot of these leaders fear. That's why they don't nuke other countries, because they don't want to catch a nuke in return. But India and Pakistan probably won't get better for a very long time. I do believe we're going to see military fight between these two countries within the next 5 years, maybe within the next 2 years. I could be wrong, but I definitely believe so. So just pay attention to that. Like I said, these countries are more countries that will cause more of these global shortages, blockades. Stop selling a product that they, resources that they have in their country to other countries. This is how the global shortage will cause. This is how it will happen, and this is how the new world order will come into effect. The people, not the government, the people will suffer the most from this. And when the people are suffering, it makes us weak. And when we're weak, we cannot fight back. That's what the brink of this is what World War III would do to us. And like I said before, guys, Iran's trying to get, the United States back in these nuclear talks where they can start developing nuclear weapons. But in the midst of all that, guess who visits their country? And this is this person's first time leaving his country since he went to war with Ukraine. Besides going to any of the former, Soviet states like Kazakhstan or whatever you call it. Putin went to Iran. How does this look for Iran? Doesn't look good. Putin went to Iran with the comfort of knowing that nothing would happen to him because he does not feel guilty, and they have made him to the point where he shouldn't feel guilty about anything he's done. And I'm not saying he's guilty. I'm not saying he's right or he's wrong, but Iran has put themselves in a situation where if they do decide to try to build nuclear weapons without the permission of the U.S., the United States will go to war with them because of what they're already trying to do. Iran's already trying to trying to have influence in the Middle East. And right now they have a big influence in the Middle East. They back a lot of these rebels. They give them weapons, money, and stuff like that. Iran is not a pushover country, guys, in case you think so. They're not. They're a very strong country. They work good together. Iran is something to watch out for. The United States does not want Iran to build up to the point where they are capable of doing any of these things. So you will see United States go to war with Iran if they do try to build nuclear weapons without their permission, and Israel will be right behind the United States. And another thing about Iran, intelligence has been, United States intelligence has said that Iran is going to attempt to assassinate some powerful American officials because of, the assassination that Trump did on one of their military officials 2 years ago. And when he was traveling, I believe Pakistan or Iraq or something like that, he was killed by an airstrike from then President Trump. So on the top of the hit list is President Trump. Next is Mike Pompeo, and then there was another military official that Iran may be going after to assassinate. Now, will it happen? Very, very, very unlikely, because it's so hard to get near these military officials, and it's so hard, not just military officials, but United States government officials, because of the protection they have, and and the intelligence they have around the world. But they are on the hit list. And if it does happen, just like how we have China threatening Nancy Pelosi, we may see something that's never been seen before, guys. And I'm just going to leave it at that, guys. But like I said, tension between the U.S. and Iran is just as high as it's ever been. Very scary. But that's just another, global shortage. You got to think all the sanctions that's going to happen. Anybody that backs Iran is going to get sanctioned by the West and United States. They're to the point where their people won't be able to do anything. because they're starving. They don't have water. They don't have food. They don't have lights. They don't have energy. They don't have anything. Anything. So again, Biden and XI have a virtual meeting. They both pushed out warnings to each other. But China is really disappointed in Nancy Pelosi planning a trip to Taiwan. You got to think Nancy Pelosi is third in line to be president. If something happens to Biden, then something happens to Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi assumes the presidency. So to China, seeing somebody that high in the government go to Taiwan is a slap in the face because of the one China policy. They do not like that. But in the same sense, you can't expect the United States to tell their officials they can't do something because of the fear of how China is going to react. So if Nancy Pelosi does not go to Taiwan next month because the threats of China may shoot down her military plane or anything like that, it makes the United States look weak, and they make it look like China just bullied them into doing what they wanted them to do. And the United States cannot have that. They cannot. You feel me? They cannot have that. Yeah. But that's what's going to happen right now. The tension between China and the U.S. is just crazy. I don't think the U.S. is going to back away because we all know the U.S. is ready to go to war with China so that they can set China back, so they won't have to worry about China being able to surpass them in anything. You got to think, guys. If the United States goes to war with China, it can shred apart the Chinese government, sanction them heavily after the war. First thing they're going to do, they're going to blockade the country and starve their people, and then they're just going to go into tank mode. I guess that's what you can call it. That's what I'm going to call it. So it's very, very scary. And next month we will see if Nancy Pelosi still takes this trip, or are the United States going to back out of this trip and force her not to go, which will be a very, very bad, weak look on behalf of the U.S. This is a very scary situation, guys. And this is what's going to push us closer to World War III, because these two are going to be the main ones that contribute to the shortages because of the influence they have around the world, the impact they have. We're going to see a lot of countries get sanctioned or being forced to not sell to other countries because they're being bullied by the U.S. or China and told not to do it, or they will face repercussions. These are how these shortages are going to happen. Mark my words, guys. Don't think they're just going to happen for no reason. The World War III is going to be the reason for all these shortages that we see and the decline of a lot of nations. Last but not least, one thing I want to go over and talk about, guys. House Democrats passed a ban on assault weapons in the U.S. So with all these sanctions and stuff that I'm talking about that will happen to World War III happening, how the people will suffer, the United States is finding ways to strip its civilians of its guns. So whether it's assault weapons, handguns, they are finding ways to make this happen so that they can potentially have complete control over these leaders. Not leaders of the people themselves. They don't want the people here to be able to do anything. When sanctions are happening, when the U.S. is getting, people aren't selling food or water or oil or whatever it is to the U.S. Yes, give or take, we do have a lot of natural resources, but there are things that we don't have and we need from other countries. And when that war between the U.S. and China happens, there is going to be a limited amount of things that we can get here in this country. So don't take anything for granted. Anything. They are getting rid of these weapons because they want to be able to have complete control. Once the people start to get tied down and aren't able to do anything, they can protest all they want, but you got to think, you are no threat to them anymore because they'll start taking your weapons from you. They'll start taking your pride from you. You're starving. You don't have food. You don't have water. There's no way you can defend yourselves. And that is what our government is working towards. So when this new world order comes into effect, they don't have to worry about the fear of the people. They don't have to worry about that. It's nothing to worry about because the people are no longer winning the battle. The government is. Shortages will happen, guys. And this is part of the reason the shortages will happen. A lot of conflict, a lot of sanctions. South Korea, North Korea, back at it again. It's scary, but it's true. It's scary, but it's true. And what we're going to see is the fall of a lot of nations. And it's going to be a pick a side, just like World War II. You're either on this side or that side. The end is only the beginning. World War III is on the verge. You have to stock up on more than just food and water. There are other things that we will not have access to anymore. And when I mean completely no access to, we're going to be blocked out. Because this is how the world is fighting new wars. Either you're on the side with the oil or you're on the side without it. Either you're on the side with the food or you're on the side without it. And you know what happens when these juggernauts can't get what they want from these other countries? They start invading these countries. If the U.S. can't get oil from Iran no more because of the war with China, guess what U.S. does? They invade Iran to take their oil and occupy them. If China can't get we just say sugar from Japan, just using or South Korea, we're just using this as an example. Guess what China does? China invades South Korea, occupies South Korea. These are the things that are going to happen. All three of the global superpowers, Russia, China, and the United States, will be at war, whether it's with each other or a different country. Somebody is going to decline. Somebody is. Somebody's not going to make it out this. Somebody's country is going to be split. We may see a China that's not the China we know. We may see America, which I highly doubt it'll be America because of the New World Order is going in effect very soon. And the leaders are almost picked already. That's why you see a lot of military coups, a lot of leaders resigning, a lot of leaders being assassinated. Things are happening. Have a great day, guys. And remember, Roberto Conspiracy Files, where you heard it first. Like and subscribe to the page, guys. Show support. And